Clugston, the Salem Radio Network White House correspondent, from his extraordinary reporting from the White House, his many features on SRN Radio, his guest spots on radio and television across the United States. But they do not know that Greg is a veteran of the White House Correspondents Association and indeed holds a very important position within it. He is indeed the bard of the White House Correspondents Association at this time of the year. Good morning, Greg. How are you?
Good morning, Hugh. I'm great. Merry Christmas. Thanks for having me.
Merry Christmas to you. Have you ever been proclaimed the bard?
Not the bard. I have been referred to as the poet laureate, with all apologies to actual poet laureates, but not the bard. I like it.
Well, as the bard and poet laureate of the White House Correspondents Association, how long have you been doing an annual Christmas party poem for them?
Yeah, this year makes number 22. I started in 1998. It was during the Monica Lewinsky scandal impeachment year of Bill Clinton when he was in office.
This really makes me angry because Greg looks like he's 20, and he's been at the White House for 22 years now. So, Greg, was there a White House Correspondents Association Christmas party this year at which you annually have read your poem?
Yeah, unfortunately, no, Hugh. Understandably so, because of COVID. We're not gathering as we normally are. In fact, when we show up for, pool duty at the White House these days, that's about the only reporters who are around the White House complex in the briefing room because of our restrictions. So, unfortunately, we did not have our usual gathering, which takes place in the lower level of the press briefing area. That's where most of the radio networks have their booths, and CNN and Fox News are down in the basement as well, and we are the hosts annually of the party that is thrown by reporters for reporters, but we also invite the press office, press secretaries, and their staff.
Well, Greg, since it cannot be given, your annual poem, to the WHCA in person, would you honor us with the White House Press Association Christmas poem of 2020?
I'd be glad to. Here we go, Hugh. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and in the White House, one creature was stirring, but it wasn't a mouse. There in the Oval, at the desk in his chair, sat President Trump with a menacing glare. Stockings were hung, but the mood was sour as he agonized over the transfer of power. POTUS dozed off after tweeting a thread, while visions of YMCA danced in his head. He dreamed of the year and all that took place, from impeachment acquittal to a presidential race. Coronavirus arrived, causing sickness and fear, but Trump said, like a miracle, it will soon disappear. Dozens of Democrats ran White House campaigns. Nancy ripped Trump's speech in a show of disdain. Where is Hunter? POTUS demanded nonstop, while Sleepy Joe, from his basement, rose to the top. America wept when George Floyd couldn't breathe. Protesters and looters then took to the streets. Trump called in the troops, hoping clashes would stop, and he walked through the park to a church photo op. A conservative court was supremely complete after putting Coney Barrett in RBG's seat. Burks and the task force attempted to teach, while Trump suggested injections of bleach. After spiking a fever, plus a positive test, he flew to Walter Reed for treatment and rest. All of a sudden, there arose such a clatter, POTUS jumped up to see what was the matter. Who should appear at the door with a knock but Anthony Fauci, the NIH doc. He wore a gray suit with a blue shirt and tie, standing just 5 feet 7 inches high. With a New York accent, he discussed medicine with ease, diagnosing allergies and infectious disease. Mr. President, sir, I have a favor to ask. To help slow the spread, please wear a mask. Throughout the West Wing, the infected, they came, as Fauci took notes and called them by name. Now Kaylee, now Meadows, now Hope Hicks and Miller. Don't minimize COVID, it can be a killer. On Kellyanne, on Christie, for crying out loud. Keep socially distant and avoid the large crowd. Trump hailed new vaccines and promised protection, but was clearly unwilling to lose the election. Mail-in ballots were viewed with suspicion as Biden pushed forward his plans of transition. Rudy and his team took the battlegrounds to court, but all the legal challenges came up short. And I heard Trump exclaim as he walked out the door, "Merry Christmas to all. See you in 24."
Greg, that is terrific because it's consistent with what I believe is going to happen. You do that every year?
I do it every year, yeah.
And do you rush through it, or you let people laugh and applaud?
Well, sometimes some of the content isn't laugh out loud funny because obviously we're dealing with news events, and this year with COVID. So I obviously, if there's a laugh line, I'll certainly let it sit there for a little bit. What's interesting is in past years, the press secretaries have often been in attendance. And like Sarah Sanders, for example, she was standing just right next to me when I'm reading this. And so there are a few lines. While there may be some gentle fun that's poked at the current president, it's never mean-spirited, but sometimes it can get a little uncomfortable.
The only White House Correspondents Association dinner I have ever been to, Greg, and I don't know if you go to them. Do you go to them?
I have gone to them in the past, yes.
Yeah, I've only been to one, and NBC took me in the short-lived Hugh Hewitt era on MSNBC, the lowest-ranked show in MSNBC history, and it was the awful, disastrous year, right? It was the terrible year in which Sarah Huckabee Sanders was insulted, and my impression of the White House Correspondents Association is it's generally a professional and upbeat group, but that year just went off the rails. Has it recovered?
Yeah, it's interesting. Two things: this basement party and those dinners. While certainly the White House Correspondents Association is in attendance, and sometimes the president of the group will be there at the White House, it's more of an informal, almost a potluck lunch that we reporters in the West Wing, bring together just to celebrate. But I hear your point, and oftentimes what happens at those dinners is that there's an effort, to have, the right comedian brought in and all the rest, and to make a statement. And you're right, that particular year with Sarah Huckabee Sanders was very brutal and very difficult, I think, for the associations in terms of their image.
And it was unfortunate. Margaret Talib was the president that year. She's a friend of mine. She's a terrific yes. reporter. Yes. And I think Zeke Miller took over for her. Who is the president of the WHCA this year?
Zeke is this year. I'm not sure who took over after Margaret. There was somebody in between, but Zeke Miller of AP right now, and Stephen Portnoy of CBS Radio is on deck.
22 years, Greg, you've done this. You've got the greatest job in America. You report every day. You get would you trade your career for anything?
No, it's been a privilege and an honor, and I enjoy the work, and I love it, and so, no, I wouldn't.
And I want to close with emphasize, you are the Salem Radio Network White House correspondent, and I have no idea if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I have no idea what your politics are. I've worked with you for 20 of those 22 years because I've been on the air with Salem for 20 years, and I don't think you've ever showed your hand, Greg. Am I right about that?
Well, I hope so, Hugh. I really do, because certainly, like any human, any American citizen, I have my personal views about things, but when it comes to my work, I really do want to let the listener decide what they've just heard coming from the White House, coming from the administration, whether they like it, dislike it, support it, oppose it. It's not my job to share opinions. I'll let the talk show hosts do that if they choose to.
If C-SPAN, if you had been picked to do the presidential debate, it would have been non-controversial. I mean, honestly, Greg, I can't imagine a fairer person than you, and I want everyone who's listening this morning on Festivus Day, I have no complaints about Greg Clugston. In fact, nobody does. He's such a pro. That's why the Salem Radio Network News Department has grown like kudzu. It's everywhere in the United States, and I think it's because of you, Greg.
Well, thank you, Hugh, and happy Festivus to all you and your listeners.
Thank you, and happy Festivus to you. We're going to post the audio of that because if the White House Press Association cannot gather, White House Correspondents Association cannot gather, they can at least listen to the audio of their annual poem. Be well, Greg.
Thank you, Hugh. Merry Christmas.